Summary of the very first stuff of Likkutei Torah. It's Parshas Beshalach, and on the pasuk about Shabbos, the mon would fall each day, and then on Erev Shabbos on Friday, a double portion fell. That was something special for Shabbos, and then the next day as well, no mon fell. So the pasuk says, Moshe explains to the Jewish people, Ru'u, seek, Hashem nasam lachem Shabbos, that Hashem has given you the Shabbos. And this pasuk will be explained in the Maimer. But first, after a few questions, the Maimer asks, why are mitzvahs called derech Hashem, the pathway of Hashem, like it says about Torah mitzvahs, that its ways are ways or paths of pleasantness. And another question: how come whenever we do a mitzvah, we say we say that Hashem has sanctified us with his commandments and given us the following mitzvah, but then on Shabbos, when seemingly we reach a higher level, we say, please, we beg Hashem, kadshenu b'mitsotיך, sanctify us through your mitzvahs. On weekdays, when we do a mitzvah, we just say, this is the fact, Hashem has sanctified us. Whereas on Shabbos, we beg and we beseech, ask Hashem for the same thing. So the Maimer goes on to explain the difference between, it says that B'ka Hashem Tzorei Lamim, that with Yud, with the letter Yud, Hashem, that's what energizes and what creates the world to come, whereas Hey creates this world. So the difference is that the Yud represents a limited amount of energy, where the Hashem's light is contracted into something small like a Yud. And that's because in the world to come, the pleasure of the world to come is from understanding and taking in Hashem, understanding Hashem, and some level of understanding of connection. And therefore, in order for us to understand something of Hashem, there has to be a limitation, a contraction on Hashem's light to allow something to be able to be taken in, to be properly received by us. And therefore, therefore the world to come is energized by a Yud representing this contraction. But then once that happens, now we're left with a limited godly light. We don't want it any further limited. It should only be able to be spread and manifest. And therefore, this world is created with a Hey representing that spread of Hashem's light and presence. Now, this is the difference between sometimes we say hair is good, let the hair grow long. Other times we say cut the hair or cover the hair with the Levi and with women also to cover the hair. The idea is that hair represents a limited energy. When you cut it, it doesn't hurt, so it's less alive than the rest of the body. So if something is too powerful, if a light is too powerful, then you want hair. Whereas if an individual who is already about either gevura, restraint like the Levium, or about nurturing and caring for the other, like Malchus, the feminine sphere, so then you don't want it any further limited because it's already limited, and therefore now you want it to be able to spread out like this world with a Hey. Now, that space, so the mitzvahs are about bringing down Hashem's pleasure. They bring down Hashem's pleasure to us. And this is the meaning of that the ways of Torah, the paths of pleasantness. So Noam, pleasantness is connected to pleasure, and Torah brings down Hashem's pleasure to us. Now it says paths in one place in singular and other places in plural. So the difference is that on one hand you can say all of Torah mitzvahs is the same general path, bringing down Hashem's pleasure to us. On the other hand, every mitzvah represents a different aspect, a different type of pleasure. Just like you have pleasure from the different senses. You could have pleasure from something you see, from something you hear, from something you smell, from something you taste. So all of these are different pleasures, and within them, different people like different types of music, or another person might have more pleasure from hearing something interesting or from hearing a joke. So these are all different pleasures. And therefore, paths can be in plural because there are many different paths and many different aspects of pleasure. But this is all just a ha'ara, a ray from Hashem's pleasure, whereas essence is only one. And therefore, at essence, it's all the same. Whereas when it comes down, then it's there's all different pleasures. And similarly with a person, so he has all different pleasures, but then the ultimate pleasure is just this inner feeling. It's not coming from outside, from something he's enjoying outside of himself, but the inner feeling of pleasure, just from himself. The person just feels good about themselves inside. Sometimes it's precipitated by a major event in life, but it's an inner feeling. Now, Gimel, there's a difference between desire and pleasure. Ratzon is desire, and then oneg is pleasure. And desire is just one thing. This is what I want, and get me what I want. That's it. Whereas pleasure, every pleasure is different, like we said, unless it's the essence of pleasure. And with ratzon, with desire, what all the different desires a person may have, as long as they're from their ratzon, they're from beyond the regular spheres, beyond the regular feelings and thought processes. So then all of them are the same. Whereas unlike with oneg, with pleasure. Now pleasure is higher because in general, what does a person want? He wants what he enjoys, and therefore the enjoyment comes first. Okay, so now, so with mitzvahs, this is over to the beginning of base. So each one gives Hashem a certain type of pleasure, and then that pleasure is brought down to us, and that's the plural. And through the mitzvah, and in particular through the mitzvah tzedakah of charity, so that brings down this pleasure of Hashem down the path to us, that we should also sense this divine pleasure. Okay, so that concludes the first daf, and then we'll learn the rest of the Maimer tomorrow.